The President of the United States is the executive head. He can impose a veto on any laws from Congress. But at the same time, his powers are limited by the Constitution, and he can't dispose of the private property of citizens. The American president rules the country, but doesn't own it. In North Korea, everything is different. This country is considered a socialist one, that is, that there's no private property. Everything belongs to the state. And the country, in turn, practically belongs to Kim Jong-Un himself. Moreover, in North Korea, there's no opposition, no political power other than Kim Jong-Un. So if he possesses something, it's not as a state official, but as its actual owner. Therefore, in 2013, Forbes magazine put Kim Jong-un in 46th place of the most influential people in the world, and in 3rd place for influential Koreans. So it's not surprising that this odious man, thanks to his position of power, has a lot of crazy things that neither the majority of celebrities nor many multi-billionaires could dream of. And we've compiled a list of the 10 most amazing objects. Let's go! What about, for example, the free use of military equipment as escort vehicles? No, North Korea isn't actually at war, this is just another whim of the country's Secretary General. Powerful armored personnel carriers were used by Kim Jong-un for personal protection during a visit to the Vietnamese capital, Hanoi. All these vehicles did, with machine guns on the roofs, was patrol the area around the elite Malia Hotel. It's funny to think that the Vietnamese military were instructed to protect these armored personnel carriers from excessive attention of passers-by and tourists. As a result, these specialized military vehicles were simply photographed as part of the background at this exotic location. After all, Kim Jong-un had used such powerful military equipment simply as an escort. In fact, the Secretary General of North Korea has a number of military ranks and titles, but with no combat experience, he simply gave them to himself. In addition to those armored vehicles, he was also guarded by 30 regular vehicles in a motorcade, including his personal armored limousine, around which his bodyguards amusingly run along outside. Yeah, it may seem ridiculous, but this armored limousine is constantly accompanied by a dozen guards who run alongside it on their own. Is covering an armored limousine with bodies stupid? Maybe so, but the task of these guards is something different. These young men are used not to protect the limousine itself, but rather to constantly monitor the surroundings as well as replace tracking drones. So why was it necessary to include such powerful vehicles in your guard, especially when visiting a friendly country? Do you think this is just a way to demonstrate North Korea's strength, to demonstrate Kim Jong-un's distrust? Or is he just too afraid for his own safety? What we have next suggests the latter. Whilst ordinary citizens of the country huddle in small apartments, Kim Jong-un is constantly changing mansions and leaving from one to another. There are 2 reasons for this. Firstly, the state has exclusive ownership of all real estate, so it's incredibly difficult to buy or sell housing. Property can only be obtained from the state, and the state is run by Kim Jong-un. Therefore, he can build himself anything he wants, anywhere he wants to. This makes counting the number of mansions owned by Kim Jong-un impossible. Impossible? Well, moving on. Kim Jong-un regularly changes his place of residence, not only because of his love for luxury and whimful nature, but also because he is very paranoid. Rumor has it the North Korean leader is terrified of assassination attempts, and so moves constantly from one place to another just to make him difficult to track. Foreign journalists cannot receive information freely in the country, and local media doesn't really do freedom of speech. North Korean newspapers can only print what the government permits. This makes a list of Kim Jong-un's mansions impossible to obtain. It's growing on me. Think about it. What if the White House belonged to the US president as his or her own private property? Or if the president could build exactly the same building at public expense anywhere in the country? A pretty interesting picture emerges, and this picture is reality for North Koreans. Even though Kim Jong-un remains one of the most protected and secretive leaders in the world, we've still learned something about his expensive habits. For example, it's known that the current leader of North Korea, Kim Jong-un, has a personal luxury airplane. It's an outdated model, an old Soviet IL-62, but the interior is very impressive. Photos captured in 2015 show mahogany panels, leather furniture complete with ivory upholstery, and even ashtrays made of whole crystals. According to some estimates, the interior of the aircraft must have cost around $1 million, and this is including the fact that the plane is so outdated that they're not used by any other countries. Curiously, the North Korean's personal plane was only sighted once he'd assumed the throne, and by that we mean became head of state. But this wasn't because of any restraint imposed by his father. Kim Jong-il was just afraid of flying and preferred to travel by train. A preference for outdated aircraft may seem a little stereotypical for a North Korean, but in fact, Kim Jong-un is fully aware of Western VIP-level vehicles. For example, he owns a representative yacht from Princess Yachts International. The length of the ship is 95 feet or 29 meters and costs $7 million. This is less than Trump's yacht called the Trump Princess, which was sold to Saudi Prince Al Walid for $19 million. Yet, for some reason, Kim Jong-un won't part with his ship. Perhaps it has incredible modern protection. After all, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. What's curious is that North Korea, due to its violation of many international laws, suffers from sanctions from the UN and other organizations. One of these sanctions prohibits the sale of yachts, sports cars, and other luxury goods into the country. But, of course, that didn't stop Kim Jong-un. What about celebrities? Kim Jong-un loves them and is an ardent basketball fan, even inviting NBA star Dennis Rodman to visit him. The athlete personally came to visit the leader of North Korea and recalled that he went with him on yet another ship. According to the former basketball star, it was a cross between a ferry and a Disney cruise ship. Alas, he didn't name the ship, but told the press that the ship was nearly 200 feet or 68 meters long. That's more than half the length of a football field. But of course, this list of the luxurious and crazy from Kim Jong-un's collection isn't limited to just the man-made. If we're talking about the owner of an entire country, even if it is one of the poorest in the world, such a person will have a lot. For example, a personal island. We would perhaps never have known about this if not for Dennis Rodman. The basketball player first visited Kim Jong-un in 2013 and since then has become friends with the dictator, sailing together on that huge yacht to a mysterious island which belonged to the North Korean leader. Very few are allowed to visit the island and, unexpectedly, its location is completely classified. Dennis himself described the week-long stay on the island as a 7-star party. Imagine a luxury resort, but for just a single person. The entire infrastructure of the island had been created for the needs and desires of Kim Jong-un. At any time, water bikes, entertainment, and the best booze in the world were ready for him. Interested? Fancy becoming friends with the North Korean Secretary General? You might want to finish this list first. A luxury island is not the craziest thing that he owns. The fact is, he is constantly petrified for his own safety, so much so that even his own waste is considered in need of protection. To this end, Kim Jong-un even has a private mobile toilet which he carries with him on every trip abroad. Can you imagine? A former North Korean security official named Lee Yoon-hyun admitted that the leader's excrement, which contained information about the supreme leader's health, was not disposed of without good reason. So Kim Jong-un's private toilet isn't the result of disgusting habits, it's for the security of the state. It's unlikely, however, that the supreme leader needs to spend a lot of time with this protected feature because his gastronomic tastes are simply amazing, especially when compared to the rest of his country. From 1995 to 1999, there was famine in North Korea, due to which thousands, maybe millions of people suffered and even died. People literally ate grass and starved, all because of inefficient relief work from the government. But of course, the ruling elite didn't suffer. Kim Jong-un considers himself as an experienced foodie. For example, his favorite dish is swallow nest soup. Exotic and expensive delicacies are delivered directly from China, but these are trifles compared to the scale of cheese and alcohol he imports and consumes. They say that in 2014, he even disappeared from public life for a short period due to overeating fat-rich Emmental Swiss cheese. In 2012, Kim Jong-un spent a reported $30 million from the state budget, that is, from his budget, on just fine alcohol. There's no way this could be just for one person, right? Okay, well, former kitchen official for Kim Jong-Un verified that at one dinner he drank 10 bottles of wine, so, you know. By the way, in the first year of his reign, the cost of imports of luxury items doubled and amounted to $645.8 million. And this is despite the fact that even now, according to UN reports, around 2.8 million people aren't able to get enough food on a regular basis in North Korea. If the arrival of a new leader brought some changes, then they didn't affect most of the population. The similarity of Kim Jong-un with his father and grandfather, previous dictators of the country, are obvious. For example, like we mentioned earlier, the Kims love trains, and Kim Jong-un often goes on foreign trips by rail. When he travels, he has 3 trains, one for him, the other 2 for his security. The first train goes ahead as reconnaissance, whilst the rear train, armed with guards, closes the column. If Kim Jong-un's personal limousine is surrounded by 12 bodyguards who run alongside it, then how many security personnel are on the train can only be guessed at. In North Korea itself, there are about 20 railroad stations just for the Kim Jong-un train. The carriages are fully armored, including their floors, with their windows darkened and dozens of scouts constantly checking the route ahead. Of course, the interior of the train for the glorious leader is set out like a presidential suite. Panels made of mahogany, separate sleeping cars, as well as all of the most modern electronics, complete with internet access. By the way, in North Korea, the small population who do have access to the internet face another problem. There are only local networks available, so somebody in North Korea is unlikely to check out cool videos like this. But back to Kim Jong-un. Even when flying to another country, a complete kitchen of cooks and other staff are on board his plane, who will prepare any Korean, Chinese, Russian, or French dish. For example, lobsters with fine wine from Burgundy. Not bad for an in-flight meal, right? But that's not all. Well, another item that the North Korean leader owns will completely surprise you, and at the same time will explain a lot. Do you like the film The Spy Who Loved Me? This classic 1977 film is a Bond movie. The scene where the main villain drops someone into an aquarium filled with piranhas is iconic. Kim Jong-un definitely thought so. The most insane thing in Kim Jong-un's possession is arguably a giant aquarium filled with hungry piranhas. According to a book from journalist Anne Fayfield, Kim Jong-un actually used this terrible invention when he decided to get rid of one of his generals after unsuccessful negotiations with Trump in 2018. We don't want to know how many days those fish had not been fed for. Have you ever dreamt of visiting North Korea? Maybe you'd like to see with your own eyes the mysterious island of its leader. Whatever you do, make sure you don't end up in the piranha pool. Why not tell us in the comments what you thought was the craziest thing Kim Jong-un owns? Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. We've got a lot more great videos coming soon.